Hello, friends, family, and fellow citizens in these still great United States. I speak to you now as our country faces our next great time of choosing. On March 1st, several states will vote, and their results will go a long way towards determining who will be the nominee and likely next president of the United States. Well, if you know me, then you know that I will tell you that neither choice the Democrats are offering up are worth any of your time. Hillary Clinton has all the sleaze, scandal, and corruption of her womanizing husband, with none of the charm, charisma, or political sense to triangulate. And Bernie Sanders, he's a true blue, unapologetic socialist. And yes, that is a dirty word. And for very good reason. As the great Margaret Thatcher once so aptly described, the trouble with socialism is that eventually you run out of other people's money. The fact that Sanders has a following among the college crowd is simply more evidence that higher education is in large part a gross waste of time and money. So that leaves us with the Republican Party, such as it is. Now, you will excuse my deference to normally proven wrong punditry and conventional wisdom, but with all due respect to John Kasich and Dr. Ben Carson, we are currently looking at a three-man race between Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, and Ted Cruz. Trump is poised to continue to win as he romps across the South, yet there is still time to stop him. Not much, but there is. And in case it was not clear, I firmly believe that we must do everything in our power to stop him. Now, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, so long as you don't vote for Donald Trump. No other candidate is perfect. Marco Rubio has tremendous flaws. Ted Cruz has tremendous flaws. But both of them would be a better choice for chief executive than the current frontrunner. Now, I know my personal preference and who I think would be best between the two of them, but that's my opinion. What I want to talk to you tonight is about why we should run as fast as we can away from Donald Trump. Donald John Trump is not a Republican. He's running a third-party campaign and simply using the hollowed-out husk of the former Republican Party to do so. And the truth is, he needs the institutional support of the party in order to win the general election, which is quite funny considering the whole premise as to why some voters find him attractive. And the powers that be in the Republican Party have no moral grounding, so they will indeed rally behind this GOP apostate so that they can continue to feast at the crony table. And make no mistake, Trump will gladly feed them well. As I mentioned, he needs them as much as they need him. He has vastly overstated his wealth and has largely been successful due to all the free airtime he's given because he's a celebrity candidate. While others who are running have to buy ads and carefully schedule their appearances to get their messages out, all Trump has to do is call in to one of the shows, from which, coincidentally, he self-admittedly gets all of his foreign policy know-how. Well, and the media, both right and left, fawn all over him. But this free pass from the press will end once the general election begins and Trump actually becomes the enemy. And so I say again, Trump needs the institutional and certainly the monetary support of the Republican Party elites in order to win the election. Now, this does not change the fact that ideologically he is the least Republican candidate the GOP has ever fielded. He supports the individual mandate of the Orwellian named Affordable Care Act. He's a champion of using the government to take people's private property away for the use of corporations. He seems to have no trouble at all with the size and the scope of the federal government. He simply thinks he can run it better. His trade policies would drive up the cost of consumer goods, likely astronomically, and would also pave the way for another depression, just as protectionist ventures like the McKinley tariff and the Smoot-Hawley tariff helped usher in two different depressions earlier on in our history. Trump's incoherent brand of isolationism, mixed with tough talk about killing our enemies, is frighteningly similar to President Obama's own schizophrenic foreign policy. And we see how well that has served America over the last 8 years. And though it has changed and gone back and forth depending on his mood, none of Trump's immigration solutions are wise, humane, or workable. Frankly, America can do a whole lot better than any of what he has proposed. Furthermore, and far more importantly to me, Donald John Trump is not a conservative. A primary belief of conservatives is that man is a fallen creature in desperate need of divine help. Now, most conservatives would say that they find this divinity in the creator of all things, the God of the Bible, and that redemption is found solely through his Son, the fully human, yet perfect and fully divine Jesus Christ. Judeo-Christian ethics are a hallmark of conservatism. And because a conservative is fully aware of the imperfection of man's nature, we will be the first to tell you how often we fail to live up to those standards. Because we cannot live up to those standards. It is only God through us that produces any kind of good. And so, with humility, we walk in the Spirit and try not to mess up too horribly, which always happens when we try to take the reins of our lives away from our Creator. But, thankfully, we serve a God who is as merciful as he is righteous. Otherwise, I would have been smited a long, long time ago. And the truth is, I deserve a daily smiting. And most honest conservatives would say that they do too. Now compare and contrast the attitude and outlook of a conservative with that of Donald John Trump, who has said that he has never asked for forgiveness for anything, even before going to church and eating his little cracker and drinking his little wine, as he so eloquently put it. Also, Donald Trump does not care about the sanctity of life or marriage. A president should not be able to do much about those issues, but they do set the tone for the national debate. And for those of you who are fighting for the right to life, your cause would be set back decades with a President Trump, who is a vocal champion of Planned Parenthood. He regurgitates far leftist pro-choice talking points about that vile organization. Trump's policy proposals are a mile wide and an inch deep, except in the hogwash department where they're about a mile deep. Donald John Trump is the consummate showman. He's far more Barnum than he is Burke. He's a classless, moral centerless charlatan who is a statist at heart and seeks not to make America great, but rather to stoke his own otherworldly ego with what he sees as the ultimate prize, to run the country. In 2016, we need a president who has actually read and understands the constitutional bounds of the federal government. What we do not need is a loudmouthed liar who is capable of giving voice to the worst elements of people's subconscious thoughts. He is the textbook strongman, using people's frustrations and, yes, fears to seek his own benefit. Now, I know that this hasn't convinced any Trump supporters to reevaluate their thinking, because everything I've said here has already been pointed out by people far more smart and savvy than myself. But I still must do my part to get the message out. I am standing athwart Trumpomania and screaming with all that I am, stop! March 1st must be the end of Donald Trump's presidential sideshow. Please help me make it so. Vote for Rubio or for Cruz and convince everyone you know to do so as well. This truly is our generation's time for choosing. As the amazing Ronald Reagan said, let's preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness. Thank you for your time, and please go out, vote, and send Trump packing.